It's so crazy to think that this game has been out for like nearly 6 months now. That's right, I got the deluxe edition. What up? This game that was like the most tweeted thing of E3 2018, and fans spent years talking about like leading up to it, has now been out for a while, and we're lucky to get like a tumbleweed that crosses the path of discussions and so on about this game now. But what was the biggest standout of this game? What was the thing that helped average it to have over 8 out of 10 reviews? That, my friend, would be its level design. Fans might want to say world design. There's tons of other factors that like I have a full-on review that, you know, you could find other details of things I liked about this game, but the world design to me was the best part of Kingdom Hearts 3, and I'd like to talk about it. Hello, if you're new here, it's Samurai Kibiji, to which every week I encourage you to be geek, be proud, be awesome. So you should check out the channel if you haven't yet, you know. But this video is going into like the world design that is Kingdom Hearts 3. And the Kingdom Hearts franchise has a wide history of various worlds that you can go into all these iconic Disney places and fight various kinds of enemies and so on. But I don't feel the worlds have been super standout-ish since Kingdom Hearts 1. Until Kingdom Hearts 3, that is. Kingdom Hearts 3 straight up brings back that unique feeling that Kingdom Hearts 1 had, in my opinion. All the games between Kingdom Hearts 1 and the latest entry, which is funny, it's like the first and last. I'm not saying they necessarily had bad designs or anything like that. It's just they were a bit more bland. They felt like a place that had a different skin on it, and they didn't really have any gimmicks or mechanics that really made it feel like its own place. Kingdom Hearts 1 had things like vines swinging in the deep jungle. Alice in Wonderland constantly changed your perspective and view. Atlantica, you were having to swim underwater. That, okay, even though people didn't favor that world, you gotta admit, like, it had that unique mechanic of swimming around. These little things just added so much sense of like, I am going to this world for this kind of a feel, for this kind of an experience. And my favorite thing about Kingdom Hearts 3 was its callback to these unique feeling worlds, and it's so much attention and scale and things that each of these places brought to its players. Each of the worlds looks spectacular and has this massive scale to it that really gives you a sense that I'm going on an adventure. And even though the game is an open world, it's like each of these worlds has their own experience to be had in it, and it's almost like its own like smaller game within this bigger game. I was originally gonna do a video about like ranking each of the worlds and like from top to bottom what's my favorite, but honestly, I like them all equally as much. Like there's only one world that is like probably my favorite world, and everything else that of like the main 7 playable ones, you know, we're not talking about Twilight Town or 100 Acre, you know what I mean. We're not talking about those worlds. We're talking about like the 7 big worlds of the game that you get to experience so much and explore so much and have all these things and blah, blah, blah. Maybe before we can continue, you could throw me like, what's your 2 or 3 favorite worlds in this game? If you had to like pick 2 or 3, like what's your favorite worlds in Kingdom Hearts 3? If you played it, you know. We finally got a massive version of Olympus. In Kingdom Hearts 2, we got a bit, you know, of Olympus, but it was more so the underworld. It wasn't an Olympus world, it was an underworld world. And this is actually a full-on scale map of Olympus where we get to explore a city that has a lot of people in it and like almost can explore it freely, really. Yes, there's a linear path, but you get to go in all these different kinds of places in it, and you get to go into the mountains of Olympus and see all these different kinds of area with so much different colors and scaling up them by like running up and so on. And of course, going to like the clouds to being like the city of gods. It was just sprawling compared to the previous iterations of this place. Of all the worlds, I think this is the only one that doesn't necessarily have anything too unique, like gimmicky about it to make itself stand out, except for, you know, its art style and stuff. I just wish that it did have Olympus Coliseum. That's the only thing that could have made this world really stand out and be different amongst the rest, which, like the first game, the way Olympus stood out was being the place that you would regularly visit to go to the Coliseum and see what's up, AKA kick some ass. Toy Box is probably a world that a lot of people have as their favorite. It for sure is my favorite story, and which, by the way, all these, we're not talking about story. We're talking purely world design. Story is not influencing what I'm speaking about in each of these worlds. Toy Box was so cool, though, because it transforms you into these toys to give you that, you know, that's a gimmick right there, you know, having the appearance of toys and fighting alongside Buzz and Woody is great. But when you go into the toy store and you get that perspective of going through a neighborhood as toys to get that sense of scale, and then you go into the toy store where you are surrounded by all these various boxes and action figures and doll houses, and when you go into these certain stores, you will be fought by things that are inside that store. If you go to the action figure place, there's a giant red dragon waiting to fight you. If you go into the dollhouse area, there's all these cute little plushies that attack you. It's just freaking cool. And of course, the gimmicky thing is that there's these mechs that you can operate that is from, you know, a video game that could be, that's sold in this toy store. Like, this place just did such a good job of being its own place. Now, Corona's pretty similar to Olympus in the way that it doesn't necessarily have too many gimmicks about it, except for the story, you know, you get to use Rapunzel's hair and so on. It's more so visually that it stands as its own, being beautiful. Beautiful, probably my favorite visually of any of the worlds in this game. This place really just demonstrated what the Unreal 4 engine could do, and you really feel like you're going on this quest. You know, you're going on this adventure like Flynn had to take Rapunzel through it. It is just continuous. When my friend came over, I showed him like, look, I am just gliding through this map and it just keeps going and going and going, dude. And there's all these various places that wasn't even in the movie, like these, the swamp area, you know, and these kind of cliffy area. Well, that was a little bit in the movie, but you get what I mean? And Monstropolis continued this trend that a few of these worlds actually have, being a bit, you know, linear based, where it's like, you know, you're going from point A to point B and kind of on a set path. But Monstropolis, again, has a very long path to go on. And there's a little twisty turn that is this world's gimmick, where you actually get to use the doors to get to certain areas. This world was honestly one that I was looking forward to more than Toy Story, surprisingly, because I always thought that would be a much more neat game mechanic to get into, you know, with how these doors would work and how we use them to get to secret areas. Not to mention, this is the only world that you get to fight the Unversed, which is actually really appropriate, because it's a world, it kind of makes sense with the gameplay being you're fighting Unversed in a place that has remains of these negative emotions, which you can see in these tubes that you hit. They're positive emotions, you know, but it makes sense to have the Unversed as an enemy in the Monsters Inc. world that deals with all these emotions of laughter and fear and so on. And Monstropolis has the unique aspect of being a factory-like place, so it has that as well. A lot of people saw Arendelle as a repetitive world where you go up the mountain, go down, go up, and go down. But when you're just exploring the world for fun, I love Arendelle. Let me tell you something that's really fun. When you scale to the top of this mountain and like jump off, you know, like while you're in the playable area of it, and you just see all the stuff you pass, it's just like, dude, I can't believe this is a thing. Sure, maybe visually it might have a repetitive side, you know, with just being, you know, the white snow and gray rocks, but it has two unique things, being one, you get to hop on the snowball, and as you push it around, as long as you don't hit any rocks or anything, it will continuously grow, and I think that's hilarious, and it's actually really useful to use in combat too. I will give Arendelle something that like no other world has. It has the frozen labyrinth in it that was just like a complete 180. Yes, it makes sense to be in the frozen world, but it's almost like an entire other section of it that's just like, you know, this is a bit more dreary, dark, and kind of like a dungeon feel, you know, instead of being outside in the open. It's so interesting. I'm just like, wow. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm putting these all in like chronological order that the game recommends you play these in. And that brings me to like my favorite world, being the Caribbean. The Caribbean just went hardcore with making it its own place, man. The Caribbean just feels like it's almost like that thing again, that's a smaller game within this bigger game. But in this game, you legit feel like a pirate, you look like a pirate, and you have your own ship to sail on through this vast horizontal plane that is easily like the biggest horizontal plane in the entire game, that just go any direction and explore these islands, get treasure, fight these other pirate ships, fight other Heartless when you go on these islands, go underwater and look for these hidden caves. Like, there's so much to explore and see and do in here that it's really daunting to think like, damn, finding all these lucky emblems and treasures is gonna be a bitch. The Caribbean is the biggest horizontal map, but easily San Francisco is the biggest vertically. This city is begging to be explored because there's just so many nooks and crannies in it. There's alleyways, there's little sections of town, there's all these ledges on buildings, which pretty much every skyscraper you see in this huge area, you just get to go up. But it makes sense for San Francisco because the idea is that you want to be this superhero that is like roaming through this metropolis and trying to like scout and see if there's any bad doers or whatever. Bad doers, really. And what's neat is that this map gives you the option to go by day or go by night, to which if you go by day, you can see civilians walking around, and that could be, you know, if you just purely want to focus on looking for lucky emblems or treasures, that's a good time to do it. But if you want to be by night and basically be Batman, you know, you could return to nighttime and fight all these Heartless that come out only at nighttime, to which I kind of wish that the Heartless came out during the day so then I could see some people running away and be like, I'll save you. And it is just a special attack, but you do get to ride on the back of Baymax by doing his finisher move, so that's cool. I just wish you could use it, you know, more freely. And there's so many little details that I'm missing about each of these worlds, like their little mini games, the party member mechanics, these little Easter eggs, not to mention the scope of these being all so like they're still loading screens, you know, but when you go to different areas, but most of the time you're not going to deal with those screens going through this huge ass scale map. Like it's very rare that you'll see those loading screens. The work that the level design team did on this game just really made it so much more fun to be a completionist in this game. Like I'm a hardcore completionist. I don't know about you, but like I love looking for treasures, lucky emblems, like synthesis and all that stuff. And having each of these worlds feel as different as they do really helps to add fun to that. Because when it just feels like another world with a different skin on it, then that just, it doesn't make it as, you know, variety feeling. But what was your favorite world in Kingdom Hearts 3? If you had to pick one, like, and maybe you can list like a couple others, you know, that's like honorable mentions. Just let me know what your favorite worlds were or reasons why you really like the world design in Kingdom Hearts 3. And you can check out my review for the game down below. And as well as things I would love to see in the DLC that we got a few things already confirmed, but you know, it's just still a fun video I did with Limit Form. Check those out. I will catch you in the next video. And don't forget, be geek, be proud, be awesome.